Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm going to be reacting to Raja Yoga, the path of meditation, Swami Sarvapriyananda. So this path is the least talked about, at least as far as the videos that I've seen. Chinmayananda, Swami Chinmayananda not ignored it, but didn't really talk about it. He said there was three paths, which is karma, bhakti, and jnana. And same thing with Osho. He says first remove yourself from what is it? Remove yourself from your body, remove yourself from your intellect, and remove yourself from your emotions. And the fourth one will just come naturally, which is this path, I believe, Raja or meditation. And I don't know if Sadhguru. He doesn't quite talk about paths precisely. He does talk about certain things about all the different ones, but not quite as, I guess you say, straightforward. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be a long one, probably a lot of parts.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. So we're speaking about the four yogas. The one we're going to take up now is called Raja Yoga. It's basically the path of meditation. The Raja Yogi says that it's not a question of belief. It's not a question of believing something. It's a question of experience. Swami Vivekananda said, religion is realization. Religion is not giving your assent to a set of doctrines, not giving your commitment to something that you have been taught, but actually practicing and experiencing something. You know it's real only when you have experienced it. This is where Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda are yogis par excellence. You see, it is basically for both of them a drive towards experience. Sri Ramakrishna, he approached the Kali temple, the image of Kali, as, are you real or are you just an image? Is there some reality behind this? Can I experience that? Can I see the Divine Mother? So that was his burning quest. And how did Vivekananda, Narendranath, become Vivekananda? He went around asking, have you seen God? The notable intellectuals and teachers of his time in Calcutta. Sir, have you seen God? And finally he came to Sri Ramakrishna, where he got an answer which satisfied him. He said, yes, I have seen God, just as I see you, in fact even more clearly. And you too can see God. Later Vivekananda was to come to this country and say that if somebody says to you that I have seen God but you cannot and you must follow me, you must believe me, do not follow such a person. But if somebody says, I have seen and you can too, then you can follow such a person. So this method of experience, Swami Vivekananda said, if there is God, I must be able to see God. If I have an immortal soul, I must feel it. So this path of seeking experience, religion is something to be experienced. Again, notice that it is not absolutely a new thing. It's more or less was taken for granted and understood in India for eons together. That religion is not ultimately meant for just for belief. Because you have the example of so many saints, generation after generation, who have actually had vision of God, whatever the tradition is, that they have seen God. Mirabai saw Krishna. Actually, you have visions of God. We are talking about even the thieves saw Rama and Lakshmana. You see, protecting the house of the saint Tulsidas. So vision of God, these mystical experiences, These you will find at not only throughout the history of Hinduism, but in every religion. At the core of religion, you will find mystics, saints, who claim not that they believe in something, who claim not that they have understood something, who claim that they have actually seen. And the path of yoga, Raja Yoga says, that's our goal. We must actually experience these realities. And for that there is a method, a set of psychophysical exercises which if you practice, you will realize. See, the paradigm in the path of devotion is that God exists, you do not have faith in God, you do not believe in God, do not worship or surrender to God, that's the problem, and so the solution is faith in God. In this yoga, the Raja Yoga, the path of meditation, the paradigm is our minds are restless and therefore we do not see the truth. If the minds can be concentrated, focused, calmed, then we will see this truth for ourselves. We'll experience it. And we do not argue with experience. I mean, you might argue with somebody else's experience, but if you experience it to your satisfaction, then you will be satisfied personally. So
I will say my satisfaction meter is quite high, I suppose. So merely experiencing something doesn't necessarily mean that it satisfies my curiosity or my how do I say, I can't think of the word. Anyway, it doesn't satisfy it enough. I have to be able to be, it has to be consistent.
it's the path of experience. And why we do not experience it right now? Because our minds are scattered, we are not focused, not concentrated, and there are methods, specific methods to focus or concentrate our mind, and then we will realize. And especially in the Eastern religions, but in all religions, but especially in Eastern religions, there are many, many such methods. These are methods of meditation. Especially religions like Buddhism and Jainism, they specialize in a variety of meditative methods. And in Hinduism, the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, the yoga philosophy, the Sankhya philosophy, especially the yoga philosophy, it is a specialization on meditation. I sometimes joke that Advaita Vedanta is a composite which has borrowed happily, we'll say plagiarized, happily from all the other schools for the concept of pure consciousness from Sankhya. That concept was already there in Sankhya. The techniques of meditation, samadhi, from yoga, which we are going to study now, Patanjali's yoga. How to understand and interpret the Upanishads, which are central to Advaita Vedanta, from Purva Mimamsa, a school of philosophy which specialized in textual interpretation. And take all of that, logic, argumentation, reasoning from the Nyaya, the Indian school of logic, and take all of that and put Brahman on top of it, and then put the label Advaita Vedanta. But if you open it up, made in China inside. So, meditation techniques have been freely taken from Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. In fact, the first textbook we had to read in Vedanta, it's called Vedanta Sara, as novices, by Sadananda Yogendra, Vedanta Sara. So there, at the end, you will find the entirety of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the techniques of Ashtanga Yoga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Sama, all of it, just literally taken from Patanjali Yoga Sutra and put there, plugged in there, as the method of meditation. And you find them in Buddhism, in Jainism, in all these methods. The classic textbook of meditation, the classic manual of meditation is the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. And the classic translation, modern translation of Patanjali Yoga Sutra was done in New York by Swami Vivekananda in 1895. The first edition of Raja Yoga. So that's part of our heritage too, in the New York Vedanta Society. In fact, Karma Yoga, the first edition, New York, a part of Jnana Yoga was first published from New York. And Bhakti Yoga, one of the earliest edition was published from New York. All the 4 yogas from the Vedanta Society of New York. The Karma Yoga was also published from London, and Jnana Yoga was only partially published from New York. But anyway, why am I saying it's the classic manual of meditation? Because there is some controversy whether actually the way we find the Patanjali Yoga Sutras today, is it pre-Buddhistic or after the Buddha. But if you look at the Buddha's own teachings, his own record, he went to some teachers. After he renounced, he went off to the forest to seek enlightenment. He went to the teachers first. He went to the existing teachers of his time. He has left behind records of at least two of them, Alara Kalama and Uddalaka Ramaputta something, name something like that. And he has left behind some records. He was not satisfied with the teaching, but he has left behind some records of the teaching. And very clearly, when you listen to what he has said, they were Sankhyan teachings. And some of the techniques of meditation which he himself developed, but they clearly bear the imprint of yogic techniques. So, and we know from his own records that, from Buddhistic records, there were many yogis at that time. So this is pre-Buddhistic. The text itself may be post-Buddhistic, but maybe the text itself is also pre-Buddhistic. Techniques themselves are definitely pre-Buddhistic. So it is maybe the oldest existing body of knowledge on meditation. Even now it's very popular, the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. So that's heavy stuff, that will come a little later. But first, before we get into the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, I want to talk about something practical regarding meditation. Something that helped me and has helped many other people, I will share with you today. This is from Swami Ashokananda. There is a nice book, this book is called Meditation by the monks of the Ramakrishna order. It's a nice collection. It's a collection of essays. The first one in that series is Before You Sit in Meditation. Before you sit in meditation. See, meditation is very popular. Today it's so popular, but also universally acknowledged to be difficult. People say it's difficult. There's so many techniques of meditation across different traditions. Today, it's a supermarket of techniques available to us today. There is
I'm sorry, when it's at a supermarket of techniques, jeez Louise. Just makes it sound like that people are just mass producing these things and they're just selling them on the streets or something.
Buddhist Vipassana meditation, which has been developed further into the modern mindfulness. It's a huge industry in USA now. Multi-million or billion-dollar industry now. Meditation, mindfulness meditation. It's taught in corporate offices, it's taught in schools, in jails, and in colleges and in the military, everywhere. You find meditation. You sometimes find in corporate buildings meditation rooms. And most of the thing here is mindfulness meditation. There are techniques. The tantrics have their own techniques of meditation, very sophisticated. The Kashmiri Shaivism has a wide range of very sophisticated techniques of meditation. One book, Vijnana Bhairava, details about 112 dharanas, which are basically techniques of meditation. And then you have the Tibetan Buddhists, a variety of visualization techniques, a variety of sophisticated meditation techniques. You have meditation techniques among the Vaishnavas, visualization of the deity. Every devotional tradition in Hinduism has what are called dhyana stotras, dhyana shlokas, how to visualize the deity. It is in fact from there that those iconography has come and images have been built from those verses.
Man, I guess there is actually a lot of techniques, but I'm wondering, like, do you have to know all of them? And I do wonder how many total techniques there are, because again, like I've said before in this channel, that I'd advise people to go and try many different kinds of. When you go look for information, many sources. If you go learn something, many sources. For example, trying to find a guru, many sources. Don't go to just one guru and say that's him, that's my guru, and you don't even know anything about the guru, and maybe it's not even the right one for you. That's why I try to watch a lot of different gurus because they explain it differently, and sometimes you understand it better or maybe worse in some cases. But in then meditation is going to be another one where I'm going to say the same thing, where you have to try many different ones because you don't know which one works for you. It's kind of like, say, you have to try them all, but good lord, if there's a lot, that's going to take a lot of time. But hey, it'll be probably worth it. It all depends. I could only imagine if you try out every single meditation technique and it's the last one that you say, this is the one. I don't know whether you just got tired or there in fact that's the one. Oh jeez.
Then you have, of course, the yogic techniques of Patanjali Yoga Sutras. The Jainas have their own body of meditation techniques. And I have heard a branch of Sikhism has its own special version of Kundalini Yoga. And so you have a whole range of techniques. Beyond India, you have meditation techniques. For example, the method, if you have read a very beautiful book called The Way of the Pilgrim, The Way of the Pilgrim, Russian Orthodox Church. So this man is taught the Jesus prayer, the prayer of the heart, which he has to repeat. Lord Jesus, have mercy on me. And he repeats. And the book is very nice. If you read it, it's just like mantra japa. It is basically mantra japa. And this man, in a very simple way, throughout all the ups and downs of life, he goes on repeating that. His mind is always on that. And the experiences he gets, you will find it tallies closely with the experiences we talk about in mantra japa, which you have in our tradition. Sufi Islam has its own meditation techniques. So meditation is a worldwide phenomenon. Many, many techniques are there. Don't worry, I'm not going to start teaching technique after technique here.
I did not know that Christians in Islam had a meditative technique. Especially Christians, I'll say that. Christian, Catholic. I did not know that. I mean, I guess prayer could be a form of that, but most of these prayers are like maybe a minute long, tops maybe, but they don't repeat themselves. They don't stay down on their knees. It's more of a prayer. That's about it. I don't know how else to explain that. It's not meditation. That's interesting. I do wonder now if there is such thing as meditative techniques in Western religion.
But first, universally, before you sit in meditation, there are certain things to be observed, which makes meditation, if you do these things, meditation will become effective very soon, joyful, peaceful. Without these things, meditation will always remain a kind of a struggle. So what are these things? Swami Ashokananda, in that first essay, in that book collection, Meditation by the Monks of the Ramakrishna Order, in that first essay, he gives 10 points. 10 points. So I'll quickly share them with you before we go into the actual discussion on the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. First, be regular in meditation. That means meditate daily. Be regular in meditation. Meditate daily. What is the practice of meditation? Just start. Just start. There is no good meditation, bad meditation to begin with. Just start. Do it. Meditation is practice, remember. No amount of reading or theory or Patanjali Yoga Sutras and no amount of commentaries. If you have read all the books on meditation and not meditated, you have not advanced a single inch. But if you sit quietly morning and evening, at least for 10 minutes, 5 minutes each, you have already begun. You have made a start. So regularity. Why regularity? Remember, meditation is to do with the mind. The mind is also a body. Just like the physical body, the mind is also a body. It's called the subtle body, Sukshma Sharira. You are not the mind, but you have a mind. And spirituality is basically in the mind. Now, what is the significance of saying that it's a body? Body needs training. Body does not need information. Just like you want a fit body. If you have read all the articles about healthy eating and exercise and all the news feeds and the books, will the body become fit? Not at all. Maybe a little more sick than before after reading all so many books.
Well, the mind is a different kind of body. I would say it is a memory kind of body. But yes, I get what he's saying. Because it's a memory type of body, it's always constantly active, and that's what you kind of have to slow down in the mind. Because even actually, why is everything always so relevant to the videos I watch today? I was just laying down in bed. It was in like 5 p.m. So just laying down in bed. I was just trying to, with my eyes closed, you can sometimes see like red and maybe some, not symbols, but squares or shapes. That's a good word for it. Shapes. And I just try to focus on that and just try to focus and focus and focus. I guess you could say I was kind of meditating at that point. A little bit. I was trying. It was terrible. Didn't work. But I tried. And yeah, it's kind of like, and the problem was my mind was kind of not necessarily racing. I was aware of my mind, not as a separate thing, because I don't know how to describe that. Just put it this way. I'm assuming there's a point where you can separate yourself from your mind. I wasn't that. I was in my mind, basically what some people can do, and then at a certain point I could see the thoughts coming in, and I was trying to keep it clear. I was trying to at least keep my mind clear. It was very difficult to do that by merely focusing on that point and trying to ignore everything else. But yeah, the mind is about reading information, gathering knowledge. That's the whole point of the mind. But I assume what he's trying to say here is to silence the mind. That's what you need to practice, is silencing the mind. Whereas the body, you have to obviously work out to make it stronger. With the mind, you have to read, gain knowledge to make it stronger. But to silence the mind, it's a little bit differently.
But if you exercise every day in the morning without reading a single book, your body will begin to show the changes. Similarly, the mind, it's a body. It's a subtle body. And body requires training, mind also requires training. Training is repetition.
I wonder if he means mind and brain as two different things. At that point, I think that's what he might be meaning.
It's worth repeating that. Training is repetition. Training is not information.
Sorry. The gross body is the body and maybe the brain, and the mind is the subtle body.
Training is not understanding. There was this book, Happiness Hypothesis, Jonathan Haidt. Let me write down the name. It sounds like a typical self-help book, but it's actually quite a deep book. He is a psychologist. He has written many other books, sometimes nowadays to do with politics and all, psychology of politics, but that's different. But this was one of his early works, very interesting. He takes up the issue that so many good books are available now. If you go to Barnes and Noble self-help section, so many. It's one of the biggest sections in Barnes and Noble.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing because it's I don't know if it's a sad thing or a good thing, but we can make money out of people's misery. And we can make money. I don't know how to describe this. It is basically that, making money out of people's misery. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. If you find a way, it takes time and effort to develop techniques and patterns to help people out. And if people are willing, they can pay for the help. So I'm not necessarily against it. It's just kind of it sounds bad, but at the same time, if you rationalize it, that it makes sense that obviously if someone takes their time to try to help you, that compensation is nice.
And so many books. So if those books did any good, our lives would be transformed.
One more thing, I'm sorry. And the sheer fact that this is probably a segment of the book market that is probably growing in modern times, because I think a lot of people are seeking self-help, and especially with how things are going in let's say May 4th. This is probably going to be published May 5th. So, in May 4th, current 2022, there's probably a lot of people who is buying these books who are in need of this, at least in the Western world.
So much wisdom, interesting stories, inspiring stories, techniques, they're full of them. And it started long ago. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and how to be a good public speaker, how to overcome tension. So many such books are available. And it's not that they are useless. It's not that what they contain is wrong. In many cases it's anecdotal, but may not be very rigorous. But still good advice, and practical advice, and useful advice.
I will say this, anecdotal, as he says. Mind you, statistics itself is anecdotal until you get enough information. So, and also, what is it? Your personal experience is anecdotal as well. So just because only you experience something doesn't necessarily mean someone else doesn't experience that, or the techniques you use to experience that doesn't work for someone else. That's why I always try to advise people in many different, not advise people, but if I hear someone and I try to talk to them, I try to advise them as many techniques or things that I've heard that may have worked, and say, hey, you can try these things out to see if they work. But it's up to them to choose.
And yet, why is our lives are not changing? People go and buy so many books, and then within a few weeks they would have had many friends and influenced so many people. But why is it that lives are not changing? So he says, what is the problem? Jonathan Haidt takes up. He says that because we do not understand the model of our personality. It's like elephant and rider. He gives the elephant and rider model. The rider, the mahout, knows where he wants the elephant to go. He can read a map and he decides, I will go there. But he has no strength to make the elephant go there unless the elephant agrees to go there. Elephant is much stronger than the mahout. The mahout can guide the elephant, but the elephant now wants to go there into the banana grove and eat bananas. Then the mahout cannot do anything. Mahout is much too weak to pull the elephant to that side. Our intellect is like the mahout. Intellect, buddhi, the intellect, understanding. You go to a seminar or a retreat on yoga and you get convinced meditation is great and I must start meditating. Get up early in the morning, like the Swami said, 5 o'clock in the morning or 4:30, and you start meditating. And morning when the alarm rings, you have to get up, and you don't feel like getting up. The body says, no, did you ask me? Did I sign up for your silly program? No. Who signed up? Who was interested in the seminar and in the retreat? The intellect. Intellect says, yes, it's a great idea. But the body did not say it's a great idea. The body is like the elephant. The body does not respond to, like the elephant, it does not respond to talks and seminars and papers and TED Talk. No. Not interested. The intellect gets very excited and decides, I will do these things to change my life. Now, what does the elephant respond to? Training. How do mouths make the elephant listen to them? Elephants are wild creatures. They're trained. They're trained to respond to certain commands. Similarly, to make it habitual. And any kind of training, it requires repetition and time. It's not enough to listen to something and understand it. And body can be trained to get up at 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the morning and make it easy and effortless. I know. When I became a monk, the first day, I used to be an early riser in the hostel, which is a different thing altogether. The monk told me that from tomorrow onwards, now you are a brahmachari, that means you are part of the order. From tomorrow onwards, you must get up early. I said, yes, I was the earliest riser in the hostel. Tell me when you want me to get up. 7:30, 7. Because all my friends used to get up at 9, so I get up at 7. And then the monk laughed and he said, forget that 7:30. You have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning or 4:30. I said, 4:30, my God. Swami Vivekananda made it a rule, ring the bell. The bell is still there in main monastery. It's rung at 3:40 in the morning. And you have to get up. And he'll politely keep ringing until you get up. And there is somebody whose duty it is to ring the bell. Once, an enterprising, I think, annoyed monk hid the bell. So that next morning the person whose duty it is, the monk whose duty it is to ring the bell, wouldn't find the bell, so we could sleep a little more. But that person was even more enterprising. He took his dish made of metal and a little bowl made of metal. We all got a dish and a bowl. So he banged it, making an awful clamor throughout. And he walked around the whole monastery banging it, making everybody up with that horrible noise. Training. But once you do that for a week, for a month, for 2 months, 3 months, it's easy. It becomes effortless. And then you feel uneasy laying around in bed after that. Especially if you're in a group. If 100 other young people are doing it, you can't be 99 people have gone away and the last 100th person lying on the bed. It's too much peer pressure. You have to get up and be up and doing. So, training. Body requires training. Knowledge, intellect, and the body requires training. Why? He has given very interesting points. He says, for example, the gut and certain other parts of the body, they have almost an autonomous intelligence. They have bunches of nerves there. And so they have a kind of inner decision making regarding food and other sense pleasures that might override your intellect. They might exert a pull. And so they have to be trained. One another reason why I like this book was, he actually went to India, to a small town, Bhubaneswar, where I grew up as a kid. He writes there. I was surprised. He said he went there to the temples, the Lingaraj temple, the Shiva temple there, and he interviewed the Brahmin priests there. Before they performed the rituals and after, he's a psychologist, before they performed the rituals and after they performed the rituals, which are traditional Hindu temple rituals. And the questions he asked, like the psychologist, a battery of questions will be there, that is like a schedule they will give. He says the scores were wildly different. How a person feels after performing these rituals and responds to situations in life, questions, is quite different from how the person responds before or at a distance from these rituals. Of course, he goes on and says the rituals are deeply connected to the culture. You take a bath and it's called Bindu Sagar there in near the temple. They would take a bath there. You chant the mantras. Then you feel sort of purified and holy, sattvic. Go to the temple to perform the rituals. So will it work if I go and take a dip in the Mississippi and then? No, you have to have that cultural background. It has to have that associated bunch of meanings for you. Then only it works. But it does work. It has an effect on the mind. Okay. So that's why be regular. That's number one. I had a friend, I remember when I was a student, he was very spiritual. And he used to live in the room next to mine. And I got, in fact, some good books from him. He gave me some good books on spirituality. You've heard of Eknath Easwaran, who lived in San Francisco. He wrote very nice books. Have you met him? You have met him? Yeah, books, yes. So I was introduced to his books by this boy. Now, one thing which I noticed, he would meditate when the mood took him. So days would go by, he's not meditating. Sometimes he would feel like meditating and he would meditate, more than me. But I had already taken mantra diksha, and one of the rules is daily you have to meditate, morning and evening, even if it is mechanical. Which is better? He would say, no, this mechanical meditation does not appeal to me. If I don't feel like meditating, how can I meditate? When I feel like meditating, I will meditate. No. Big trick of the mind. It's like the elephant saying, I will be trained when I feel like training. I don't feel like training, you can't train me. Then the elephant will never be trained. No amount of training will work. If I say, I will get up only when 4 o'clock, some days when I have the mood, I will get up at 4 o'clock. That mood will become rarer and rarer, you will see. So regular meditation, daily you must meditate. Then the second point he says, have a fixed time for meditation.
I will say that the first part about doing it daily and daily, it was something, I can't remember which video I said about. Oh yeah, it was the questions with Sadhguru. I'm sorry, I can't remember the guy's name, but it was the more recent one. And what's the best advice you've heard from someone? And the thing I said was, just put out a video every day. Just constantly, just be consistent with your video. Basically, that first part, what he said, just be consistent with your meditation.
Not only daily,
there you go,
but have a fixed time, as far as possible. I know people are busy, so the schedules, but as far as possible. And Swami Ashokandi recommends at least twice a day. Thrice if possible, if not, at least twice a day. Once, of course, but at least twice a day, morning and evening. And he says there are special times which are suitable for meditation. Best time is always you get up from bed, fresh, the previous day's impressions have been cleared off, you are rested. Use that time for meditation. When the world is quiet, there are beautiful descriptions of Swami Vivekananda in New York. How he would always be in a meditative mood. Sometimes he would sit quietly and become so absorbed, people would be waiting for him to give the talk. They would sit for meditation. They thought maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour. They would slowly, they would not dare to disturb him. They slowly get up and walk away, and he would open his eyes and find the room empty. Everybody is gone. And he actually became embarrassed about these things. He taught the American disciples, just like Sri Ramakrishna, you see the continuity there, certain mantras, that if you see me sitting in meditation like that, repeat it into my ears and I'll come back to awareness. He would try to stop his mind from going into deep meditation. Just the opposite for us. We try to go into deep meditation. He would try to stop his mind from going into deep meditation. At all hours. But especially, the beautiful description, when that busy city, even when Manhattan, a city that never sleeps, when it finally went to sleep, very early in the morning, everybody, this whole city is quiet. Vivekananda would be immersed in deep meditation. At sometimes, students would walk into a room and suddenly find him sitting there, and they began to recognize that inward mood. They would quietly walk out without disturbing him. As evening fell upon the city, as night deepened on the city, this is Vivekananda would remain immersed in samadhi in the little room. Meditative mood. If we cannot do that, at least twice a day. And early morning is good, and evening. In India, the yogis, they felt that there are certain times in the day when night changes into morning, dawn. When noontime, there are inflection points, so to say. They are called sandhi, twilight, when afternoon changes into evening. And then midnight. These are good times for meditation. I remember when, as in the hospital, I was once a patient as a young monk. And there was another much more old monk who had a cataract operation being done. He was in the next bed. And because I was young and I was in the hospital for a pretty long time, so you're lying down, you don't feel like sleeping after some time. So sometimes I would stay awake whole night. And I watched when that monk thought everybody else has gone to sleep. He would get up on his bed. And then he had a little tin box. I always wondered what was in it. He would open the box at night when everybody was asleep. And that box had pictures of Thakur and Swamiji, little pictures. He would take it out and he'd put it and then in front in the bed, he would sit in meditation for hours and hours. But well before dawn, before anybody stirred in the hospital, he would quietly close the box and go to bed. So I told him a few days later, Maharaj, Swami, I know what you're doing at night. And the Swami burst out in laughter and he said in Bengali, What he said was, "Oh, I am a Rakshasa, a demon. Demons come out at night. Amito Nishachar. Nishachar means the one who walks in the night, a demon or night, yes." I don't know, there's something about the time. What Ashokanji says is that generally what we read is that nature is quiet at that time. There is a certain quietness that comes upon nature at times. I don't know how true it is in modern cities in the world, but definitely just imagine a small Indian town, very early in the morning, of course quiet, and afternoon, when it changes into the hot Indian afternoon, it quietens down a little. And then evening, as the sky reddens and the sun sets and the darkness falls, again a quietness comes on the world.
I was going to say, I mean, I don't get up early in the morning. I get up around noon, afternoon, about 12:30 to 12:45 because of my work schedule. And he just said afternoon there. I was going to say, like, man, I can't get up that early now. But I was thinking maybe I could do that. I could maybe try just getting up 10 minutes earlier just to be able to just sit for 10 minutes. Meditate for 10 minutes. Just sit there and I guess think of nothing. I don't know. So far, I don't know what to do. Just to meditate. So I'm wondering if he'll go into certain techniques here, at least a few, I hope.
So nature is quiet. There's something in the patterns in the body also, that at these times it is conducive to meditation, conducive to inwardness. So that's another thing. There's Swami Brahmananda used to say, and Sri Ramakrishna also, different places, especially holy places, pilgrimage places, at different times there is a special spiritual vibration. So he identified different times. Belur Math, much to my annoyance, it's at 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's if you want to catch that time. The monks were uncompromising. We would groan that it's hot and sweaty and you don't hardly get enough sleep at night. You have to get up at 3:40 in the morning. I still remember our very senior Swami, our mentor, saying, "No, that one we cannot compromise on that. But you feel sleepy the next day, fine, you can sleep. But you have to get up at 3:40 in the morning and meditate at 4. 4 to 5 or almost till 6 sometimes you can meditate. Suppose I can't work properly after that, and so whatever you can do after that is acceptable to us. But that one is you have to get up. We don't want your efficiency afterwards. We want you to get up and meditate at that time. It's just a way of pushing the mind, because mind is tricky, you know. Then I think he said Puri is probably in the afternoon. Banaras is midnight, I think, midnight. Vrindavan also, I think, probably midnight. The different spiritual centers have special vibration. They have the vibration throughout the day, but at special times. Also special times, special puja times. You will find the holy days in the year, which are regarded as sacred times. At that time you will find a special vibration.
I wonder, well, he says midnight and afternoon. Like midnight where? I'm assuming this is always local time. But it's kind of strange, you know, midnight in India or midnight in America, midnight in France, midnight in Germany. They're all different times. But I'm assuming it's always at your local location. But it's kind of weird, though, to say that, because there's always midnight somewhere. So it's always happening.
Where large numbers of human beings think of God, or at least they're supposed to. There is a special vibration in the air, and for centuries they have those days. You know, like we think of Shivaratri in Bengal, the Durga Puja, 5 days and nights, and there are special times like that in the year, good times for meditation. So time. Second thing is take advantage of time. Some of the monks I knew, regularity, time. I've mentioned sometimes One monk who passed away in the ICU, and the nurses there would see. Now, ICU, difficult to know whether it's day or night because it's always neon lit and all. Very sick patients are there. But he would always struggle in his bed and get up. He's dying. He died a few days later. But every day he would get up at just before 4 o'clock and would sit like this on the pillow. The hands are moving. The japa is going on. It's a lifetime practice. Time, exactly at that time he gets up. And although he may not be very much conscious of anything outside. So, regular time. Make it a lifetime practice. As much as possible. If not possible, we know lives are busy. It may not be always possible. Then do whatever you can. But if not, you see, mind becomes trained in such a way, Sri Ramakrishna said, like the needle of a compass. It normally points the polar axis, north-south axis. If you spin it around like this, what will happen? It will go around and then again swing back to that. So the mind of the yogi should become like that compass. Our meditative habits should be such that when the world throws your mind into a spin, problems come, difficulties come, mind gets upset, annoyed, unhappy, anxious. But very soon it will whirl around and come back to that. The problem is our minds are just the opposite, always whirling around. And it takes effort to bring it back to that axis that means pointing towards God. But that part should be effortless. Whatever the world does, your mind will be thrown off balance for a while, but it will come back again. So that you have to train your mind like that. And auspicious place. Number 3. So I'm
okay, I'm gonna pause it right there actually. So yeah, that is so far my difficulty, is to get my mind, I wouldn't say spinning, it's not necessarily out of control, it just, I guess it can be sometimes. It's just, things come up, it just can't stay silent forever. But I guess I could, again, like I said a little bit earlier, that I guess maybe in the morning and the afternoon when I get up, I could try maybe at least 5 to 10 minutes every day. It'd be a good start, honestly. But and I guess the technique I will start listening to. I guess I need to react to a little bit more meditation videos so I can start getting an idea on that. Even though I haven't quite grasped everything in Advaita Vedanta, but at the very least, I think I should start exploring this part so I can start practicing. So anyways, this is the first part of probably many, because this is a very long series, of Raja Yoga, the Path of Meditation with Swami Sarvapriyananda. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.